there are two ways this can go, and I don't kind of mind moving between one group and the other. The first one is that if you don't have experience in Hsing I, then the idea that you can learn the 5 fists of Hsing I in a weekend is absurd. I'm not saying someone couldn't do it. I'm also saying that you couldn't give a person a guitar lesson and put them up in front of a concert the next week, and maybe somebody can do it. I haven't met him or heard of him or even heard of anybody who has. But if you have any experience at all in Hsing I, or you just want to learn about the 5 elements, then it's fine for you to learn the fists, because I'm going to be focusing, when I teach Hsing I, on the 5 elements in terms of the 5 movements, because I think that's the thing that most people are going to find very useful in their life. But for those of you who have a very strong interest in martial arts and whatnot, you're kind of on the horns of this dilemma. If you just wish to kind of get an introduction to it, if I end up splitting the group, and that'll be up to you, then by all means, I mean, just get in there and, you know, at least I think it can be reputably said that I actually know what the 5 elements of Hsing I are. But I'm also a Qigong master, and I also know what the 5 elements are, period. So it's your call. And I simply will leave it up to your freedom, and if you make the right choice or the wrong choice, nothing to do with me. Who knows? Who can say why anyone does anything, especially in terms of where things are going to morph to over the years? That's highly unknowable. But in terms of the first element, Hsing I, the first element, which is metal, and the posture that's done with that is called Santi, and often called Pitren, because it's a cutting action. If you want to talk about standing postures, in the whole world of standing postures, and Tai Chi has standing postures, and Shaolin, everyone's got standing postures. In terms of making a body strong and bringing out its intrinsic yang energy, there is nothing more direct than Hsing I Santi. For those of you who might have an interest in Bagua, what can be said that if you really kind of get Santi down eventually, when your hand's facing the center of the circle, doing the single palm change, you can begin to understand what it is. Originally in the martial art thing, as opposed to the whole thing that came from Taoism, there was a fusion where people who, the Bagua people, could beat the Hsing I people. But it wasn't like a lot of them could do it by so much. But there was something that they noticed. Hsing I is, as a general rule, is based upon several qualities which are rather deliberate, distinct, and quite, there's no fuzziness about it at all. Number one, actions in Hsing I are extremely deliberate. Number two, it's based on a very yang projecting energy. Number three, as they say in Chinese, Hsing I没有退步, Hsing I never retreats. It only goes forward. It only, even when it steps back, it's still in a way going forward. So it's not the roundabout, cutting angles, all this kind of, I mean, it does all that, but it does it in an extremely direct way. Okay, let's just put it this way. As a martial art, you cannot get a more aggressive one than Hsing I. On its pure basis, it epitomizes the aggression of yang energy. Except it doesn't carry any of its emotion. Do you understand? Many people very often when they want to get aggressive, they get like all this emotion, right? Like that was epitomized, for example, in Bruce Lee's movie, I think it was Enter the Dragon. Oh, get your emotion, get your feeling. Well, okay, you also could retranslate that, become a psychopath for the weekend. I mean, that is what a psychopath does, if you want to come right down to it. Hsing I keeps an extremely clear mind, but the whole process of Hsing I and the way it thinks and how it acts and what it does is just that there is a goal, my mind goes, everything goes behind me until I accomplish it. So in that one sense, it's very, very useful for people who just, shall we say, internally crumble. And if you just need that. Now, it's debatable about what that can do for a person's emotions if they're hyper-aggressive to begin with. Now, if I would make a joke about internal martial arts, Tai Chi, which is always based upon following the other person, could be described as in the Bible, thy will be done, right? Whatever you do, I go with that. Hsing I is my will be done. It's very primary about the I. Now, in terms of P-Tren, the major thing that occurs, which has to do with the metal element, is a Hsing I develops the breathing in the lungs to an extreme degree. It also eventually links the spine to the rest of the body. Now, as a pure whatever, it is also that P-Tren, the basic practice of Santi, is also about developing an ability for the mind to project without gapping out, without discontinuities. Now, as I said, it generally is not, many people in the world are very intelligent, very hardworking, but they don't necessarily have the perseverance to crack through. And my experience of having taught Hsing I for many, many years to many, many, many people, and I've taught them the entire range from people who walked in scared of their own shadow, about the biggest wimps on the face of the earth, all the way to people who extreme violence was part of their job description. That's what they did. That was required for their job. Like we have guys in Iraq, that's what they do. They kill. Or at least they're willing to, whether they do it or not. So I've taught the whole gamut, and the one thing that I found is that the quality, and this is now I'm going to move to a different area, which is a spiritual quality, because I want you to just kind of get, I'm a very big fan of Santi, mostly because my teachers made me do it, and everybody I know who ever became really good in Hsing I really practiced the living hell out of Santi in the beginning. The whole story about how it surfaced with, you know, the Dai Lung Bang and his brother, you know, teaching Li Dongzheng, they made him do it for 2 years. And they made him do it so that his foundation would be so strong, and he just became like the father of the whole Hsing I movement. So it's a very, very strong thing. But here now I interject something where, in general, I would not call Hsing I a spiritual martial art. I think that would be a flat-out lie. But it has one quality that is extremely relevant to any spiritual practice. Where I would call Bagua and Tai Chi, they have their absolute, and within Taoism, they are spiritual martial arts. Within Taoism, not within the martial art world of Tai Chi and Bagua. The thing that's very important is that we have this thing called life, right? And we have this interesting thing called you're going to die. And we have this interesting thing of what happens after that. That which will allow a person to go through a life, successfully negotiate that middle ground, and then deal with what comes after next, is going to a great degree depend upon how clear and continuous their intent is. Now, martial art people do it so that they can, you know, just beat people with it, and that's what martial arts are. They're military arts. That's, you know, their whole purpose is, you know, warfare, if you want to come right down to it. And let's not just say sports and all that, because that's not real martial arts. Okay, the stuff and where it all came from was all no nonsense. Somebody lives, somebody dies, not somebody goes, you won. Who gives a damn? Nobody, when it comes to life and death confrontations, actually care whether they win or not. They only care if they walk out intact and with all their pieces there. That's the reality of the life and death game. But what allows a person to maintain a stream with their mind that can go through the decades and the years of their life, go through their education, go through their middle age, go through their old age, and enable them, when the time starts coming to go, that their intent, their mind doesn't get broken? That is an insanely valuable tool in terms of any spiritual practice. And if you had to say the one thing that Santi, if that can't do it, I don't know what can. I would put it that way, and I've been practicing since I've been a child and done lots of things, is how do you actually get that one-pointed concentration that can become continuous rather than intermittent. Because that's what everybody has. You have it, you lose it, you have it, you lose it, you have it, you lose it, you have it, you get distracted, you have it, you don't care anymore, you have it, and boom, it's gone. And Hsing I is very direct in that. But the thing about Hsing I is that, and Santi especially, is that it's really simple. But it's really hard to do. Okay? It's simple, but it's hard to do. And if you know anything, and if you've lived a long life, most of the things that are of the highest quality are simple, but really hard to do. The complexity in it, you can't see it in the beginning. But the things that you're doing are not the most complicated things on the planet. They're just a few people are very good at them. It's not easy to have an intent in a mind that doesn't get blown away when the storms come, and goes through it whether there's a storm or a bright day, and you just keep on going. Before you even do a movement, I want you to do so. I want you to put your hand right in front of your face and look at your finger. Put your hand in front of your face and look at your finger. Look, this finger. I want you to relax your eyes and don't let go of your focus and your concentration. But keep looking at your finger and relax your eyes. Now this will be more difficult when you do Santi because you're going to be standing on one leg, and believe me, that makes it more difficult. Just keep looking at that finger, relax your eyes, see it, and see anything else you can. But continue to do that without stopping. Try and sit straight without leaning from side to side. Try and get your spine straight. You want to look clearly without your eyes bulging out of your head. To do that, you have to relax behind your eyeball. Let everything go in your mind except looking at your finger. That's it. That's the sum of your life. That's the sum of the universe. Don't squeeze or narrow your eyes. It'll just sap your stamina. Well, you'll find out anyway. It's a virtual promise that the more you relax behind your eyes, the longer you'll last. And vice versa. Keep your spine straight and let the strength of your spine support your vision. Just looking with your eyes is not the same thing as having your hand up in the air looking at your finger. It's really not the same. It's a lot easier to do this without your hands. Relax your shoulders. Spread your fingers. Spread your fingers so you feel your spine filling up. You feel your vertebrae lifting, and you feel the strength of your spine, or the weakness of your spine, depending what's actually there. Breathe. Breathe with your belly and your kidneys. So the more you tense your eyes, the stamina goes. Don't focus, don't squeeze your eyes. Let the space behind your eyeball just open. You don't need any strength if your eyes work to see what's in front of you. Hsing I makes a very big deal about what's real strength and what's false strength. Tensing up and squeezing your eyes is false strength. It actually doesn't do anything. It's a bad habit. That's it. It's a habit of tension. Now just become aware of what's happening to your nervous system. Doing this for a while, just become aware of what's happening to your nerves. Because as you keep this up for another couple of minutes, you're going to start directly encountering your nervous system. And as I said, this is just to get you into it. It's going to be way different when you're standing on one leg. But notice that the degree to which you tense your eyes, you're going to have an equal degree of difficulty relaxing your nervous system. And there's no two ways about that. You don't need to exert strength in your eyes to see, as long as you're not blind. Now see if you can open up your mind so that you actually can start seeing past your finger without your vision becoming blurry. To do this, you're going to have to relax your eye muscles. Now if it's too hard for you to do it with one hand, you only have 2 minutes left, so put your other hand up, but keep looking. You want to experience what's going on now so that when you practice Sati, you don't miss the main point. And the main point is the energy in your body and radically strengthening your nervous system. But it's not cheap. It's not easy. There's an old phrase, you get what you pay for. The practice of Sati and Pitren is difficult, but it just yields dramatically more than the work it puts you through. Lots of things in the world you can put a lot of work in, nothing happens. Sati is one of them that does, but you can't skip the work phase. You don't transform the nervous system by just thinking nice thoughts about it. You have to engage it, and you have to learn the way it works for real. Now give it what you got. You only got 30 seconds left. You've all done reasonably well. Okay, you can put your hand down now. Now, the posture of Sati, which we're going to start going into, is a wee bit harder than what you just did. The body has a whole series of alignments which eventually will allow you to tap into the energy channels in your body. If you don't have those alignments to a certain degree, you're just not going to tap into them. It's that simple. It's a very direct method. So first we're just going to start with something very easy. This could be summed up, let's take it from the negative point of view. We'll make it a commandment, since I don't know. Probably some religious holiday happening somewhere. Thou shalt not destroy thy knees. Can you all follow me? Lots of people do all kinds of martial arts, all kinds of energy practice, and they really do trash their knees out because they don't know how to align them. But let's start with this. If I was to take my feet, your feet are going to be, when you do Sati, with no more. Can you see how wide my feet are? Look, if I splay out, see the distance between my heels? Yet the width of your feet, when you do this, should be basically no more than about an inch. I say this because the standard thing in almost all these things, almost martial arts, Qigong practices, is people put their feet really wide because it's easy to stand that way. You don't do that here. Okay? And the purpose of having this narrow stance is to actually condense the body to eventually open up the energy channels in it. Okay? I want you to get that. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start, and there's lots of ways of beginning Santi. In some schools, they do this. That's a whole energy thing. And if you decide that you just want to work on P-Trend for the entire weekend, then I'll be happy to go into these details. And schools that mix Hsing I and Bagua, where they're all kind of mixed together, they do things like this. They do the same exact motion, but with a lot more hip and waist movement like you would do in Bagua. Same basic hand action, but a different waist motion. Now, and there are other ones that just start like this, and they just go straight out. So there's different ways it's done. Can you all follow me? For the moment, I don't even want you to get how to do this because it's going to take a while for you to get the coordination. But here's a simple thing. This is called your center line. Crown of your head, nose, middle of your breast, belly button, here, perineum on the bottom. Now I want you to get something about a center line. There is a center line if you're static, and this is a center line that you're facing forward and it's your body. So my hand's on my center line, yes? But if you take what this center line is, if you're going to turn your waist, can you all hear me? Your center line now is going to have to be in front of you. See that there's an imaginary line here? So watch something. If I'm moving my hand, just watch. See my hand is on that imaginary center line, and you have to get it to where, as best you can, you're tracking your own center line and this one that's external. Can you all get this? And this is tricky. I'm not trying to make it easy, you know. So what we have is that understand there is this very basic idea of torque. Something turns, and if it turns, it can project something forward. And that's a technique that Hsing I does a lot. See, that's my center line? But somehow I've got to get this center line here and this center line here to link, to become the same thing, rather than just stick my hand out. So all actions of your hands are ultimately driven by what's happening inside your body. And that's a concept lots of people don't like, or anyway, they find it very unusual. So we're looking for this is a center line. Can you all get this? Now, the ultimate point, and I may go beyond what some of you who haven't heard this stuff before, you might find it somewhat confusing, but there are people here who do have a background, and so it's good for you to hear it, even if you can't do it the first time. All the purpose of Santi, Hsing I's big thing is really getting all your strength to come into your lower Tantien. That's what the whole thing is about. That's what Santi was about. That's the reason why Da Lung Bang made Li Lo Nung do it for 2.5 years until he got it. The person who taught the Dai brothers, who was supposed to be a midget, who, you know, just seemed like he weighed 5,000 pounds. But when you're moving, you can turn your waist, because you're going to do this in a second. Just watch. We're just going to start this way. Make a fist. 1. Okay, then we're going to do this here. Then we're going to step out. Now that's what we're going to do. There's many kinds of Hsing I. But I want you to get that when you turn your body, there's 2 ways of doing it. If you take your hips and you take your waist, it's like a big cylinder, and you turn the cylinder. Yes? That is what beginners do. But later on, it wants to go a little bit further. And that if you were to put your hand right on the tip crown of my head, then if you take a line that runs right down the center of that cylinder, by rotating the central channel inside the body, that's actually what moves your hand. And it's dramatically tighter. This way is a very big kind of a thing. This way, when you turn from your central channel, is a lot harder to do, but it's a lot stronger. And part of the purpose of it is that if you activate the lower Tantien and you activate the central channel of the body, eventually it becomes possible to open every channel in the body, because they're the primary switches. So when you look at, if you want to look at, you know, martial arts or Hsing I or whatnot, you have two different ways of generating power, and they are not mutually exclusive. One way is very simply, in some manner, force times momentum creates impact. And that is called impact momentum. You have a certain amount of momentum, it hits some resistance, it causes an impact. But there is a second way that power is developed, and that is the power of wave action. And wave action is energetic. It's not impulse momentum. Waves, you know, a sonic wave can shatter a building, but it doesn't hit it physically. It creates a wave pattern. The big thing in Hsing I is that Hsing I, as it gets better and better, it always starts, like all martial arts do, with impulse momentum. But like Tai Chi and Bagua, its real game is wave action. Okay? So it's not about, you know, just this type of thing. It's about sending a wave. Take a wave, make it long, you throw somebody without harming them. Okay? Shorten the wave into a point, and you can basically rupture anything you hit, because the wave will blow up from the inside of them. So look at this. Look, my hand. Can you all see how it's coming out, or it actually comes into your chin and then out? Can you see how it's staying within this tight range? That's exactly the width of my fist. Just watch. And that is how we have to begin. Now, the way we begin is if first you want to stand. As I said, there's all these things about raising and dropping your energy. We're going to leave that alone for the moment, because I want you to get into the main gig. Right now, about how far are my heels? Give or take. How far apart are they? Inch, half an inch, something like that. Basically, it's going to be determined by how thin or how thick your thighs are. Because what you don't, as long as you have your feet the absolute maximum closeness they can be without feeling as though your perineum at the bottom of your pelvis is closing down. I have very, very big legs, so, you know, I go that wide. My teacher had his heels touching because he was really skinny. And I had other teachers who had big legs and they put a little bit wider. But your perineum is located between your anus and your genitals. And that area has to remain open, because as your chi flows up and down from your body to your legs and your leg to your body, it must pass through your perineum. A Chinese name for it's huiyin. It must pass through that point. So if you close that point down, for example, by letting your leg collapse in like this or something, you can get a lot of physical stuff, but you can't get that full flow of chi in your body because you've turned the spigot off. Okay, so let's everyone just stand for a second. Now watch something. Put your hand on the crown of your head. Now, look what I'm going to do. Turn and keep looking at what's in front of you. Your eyeballs can do that. Turn. Bend your knees. Turn your waist, but see if you can turn from the center of your body as best you can. Turn one way, then turn the other. Now find out something. How far can you turn before you hit internal resistance inside your body? Don't turn to where you get internal resistance. Just stop short of it. And that's all you want to go to. Because if you feel internal resistance, something's going to close down inside. So turn as far as you can without hitting internal resistance. Now you have to get one more thing that you're going to need. You're going to have to work with each other, because you're not going to get it by yourself. Sit down just for a second so you can see this. Now, what you have is that there's a principle that is in Tai Chi, Hsing I and Bagua. It's very commonly people just say Sidian, they just talk about 4 points. There's actually got lots of other names, but I think 4 points makes it easy. You take right here, if you take your finger, take your shoulder, and put your finger in that hole. In Chinese, they call that area the shoulder's nest, Zhenhua, because if you actually get it to where you relax it in so your energy can move up and down your left and your right channels, like the nest a bird would come in. It makes a hole. Okay? So you have it on the left and the right in here. Next, go down here to where your qua is. Look, the inguinal region, look where my hands are. And find how you can let that have a bit of a hole. Okay? That's your qua. Okay? Your left and right channels are between these 2 points, but they're midway between your belly and your spine. Now, these 4 points have to stay together at all times when you do Hsing I. And I should mention when you do Tai Chi too, or Bagua for that matter. Though in Bagua it's a bit more tricky to understand it. Bagua can do things with twisting that Tai Chi nor Hsing I can do. But still, basically, these 4 points have to be together. So let's see if we can watch something here. Can you see how he's on my 4 points, give or take? Yes or no? Okay, I'm just making him now watch. If I turn this way, is he still on my 4 points? Yes or no? Is he still on my 4 points? Yes or no? Now watch him become not on my 4 points. Or how about this? Not on the 4 points. My hips twisted out. It broke the box. Now, there's a whole thing about, in all internal martial arts and methods, there's a thing about it in every Taoist practice, about this box is always maintained so that you can put your internal organs eventually under maximum compression. And this is not the same as lots of athletics, because lots of athletics, all the time, they move so they break the 4 points. So this is not the standard thing. Okay? So you want to have these 4 points together. That's one reason. And the second reason is that then all your body weight is together. Because when you go like this, some of your body weight is not in the same direction. There's no two ways about it. Third reason for doing this is that they don't want to cause the spine to start wiggling. They want to use the strength of the spine, and you cannot use the strength of the spine if you're twisting it like this and you're doing something. You only can use part of its strength. Okay? So there's a certain amount of precision here. Now, what I'm going to have you do with each other is just take a partner, and all your partners are going to do is a very simple thing. You're going to stand here, watch, and you're going to turn. Left side, right side, it doesn't matter. And all they're going to do is help you to get if you're keeping your 4 points together, if you're broken. So don't explain to them about why they're doing it. You probably don't know. But what you can say is a very simple thing. Your 4 points are together. Your shoulders aren't anymore. All you do is give them feedback, because the odds are most of you are not going to be able to feel if these 4 points are together. So all you're going to do is give each other feedback so you can get as close as you can. Now on this thing that you're doing, I want to explain this extends throughout Hsing I. So if you can just watch me for a moment. Can you see how these 4 points are together? Yes or no? Are they still together? Are they still together? Are they still together? It isn't going to matter what the Hsing I technique is. They're not together anymore. Now they are. They have to be together in every single technique of Hsing I, without exception. So this is a very, very basic thing. Of course, you use it in Santi, because Santi is where you learn how to do all the basic alignments you do in Hsing I. It's the easiest place and the strongest place to fix the alignments. And the other 4 elements, you use them, but they're supposed to be stabilized there. Just like if you went to a decent school when you were younger, they actually made sure you could add before they taught you how to subtract. Because you got to carry numbers. You had to do that. Otherwise, when you started subtracting, you saw it wasn't going to work. And you had to add and subtract to do division, because you had to use it. Okay? So let's just do this. These 4 points, turn, turn, turn. And let's just see if we can keep these 4 points together. And if you can, have a sense of the crown of your head going right through your perineum, right in between your feet. And if you can keep all that together, that's very good. Have fun. Now, if we think about your knees, okay? You'll see lots of martial arts and lots of people doing this, and it's how you destroy your knees. Knees, even if you're super thin, are not meant to go like that too much. They're also not meant to go this way. And they're definitely not meant to go this way, because in the process of doing that, you strain the ligaments, and your knee is only held together by ligaments. Your knee is, for its size, the weakest joint in your body. And the major reason is it doesn't have a lot of bone mass. It's only meant to transfer weight. It's not strong enough to bear weight. Can you all hear me? So if you have in a way that your knee is in such a way that that weight goes through and down to your foot is laying the pressure off against the ground. You understand? It transfers it through. But if the weight goes into your knee, it's a problem. For example, in many martial arts, it takes exactly 30, 32 pounds to break a knee. It doesn't take more than that. And that's why people will just kind of stand with a straight leg and they get popped, their knees just go. So what you have to consider, though, is that how do you know if you're putting strain on your knees? Well, the one thing that does help, before we get into, I don't know how far we'll get with all the knee alignments, is very simple. If you take these 4 points and you turn, let's say you shift your weight from one leg to the other, can you feel the weight of your entire body going through to your foot as you turn? Can you feel it going into your foot without your knee seizing up? Now, if you feel the knee seizing up, that means pressure is going into it. So come here, Isaac. I just want to show something. I want you to get this. Your knee's like your elbow. There's only one difference. You see, your shoulder joint moves way more than your hip socket does. There is nobody that can make their leg go like this. The body's not structurally designed that way. The great designer I'm sorry. Whether it was God, the spacemen, or a dolphin that didn't know what to do for the weekend, the fact is that your shoulder has this degree of mobility in it. Your hip only has about this much. I mean, try it. I mean, just take your leg and see if you can just make your leg go backward, make it flip over. I don't think you can. Now, what that means is that because it has a less of a range of motion, it can go dramatically less far before the only place the pressure is going to land is in your knee. Why? You're standing on it. Your weight's on it. Okay? You couldn't pull off half the things you do with your arms if you had to walk on your arms, because then the elbow would start taking the pressure. Okay? So that's kind of what is your body weight's on. Now, the point I want to make here is this. Just as, if you all can kind of see what that is, yes? Okay, snap, crackle, and pop. Well, that is the equivalent with your knee of doing this. See what I'm doing? Now again, if I do this, that is the equivalent of doing that to your elbow. Which, how many times can you do it before you start pulling the ligaments out of the insertions in the knee? Insertion means the place they stick in. I don't know. But sooner or later, you got problems. So the first trick here is that when you stand up, I want you just to, how far can you turn your weight, and can you get to where as you turn your waist, your foot feels like it's bouncing and you just don't feel pressure in your knee? Now, to get exact, learn to open the energy gates of the body and go chapter and verse every place you need to have the alignment. But at a first very simple cut, do that thing from the center, and how do you have to just not be too far, not too back, not too this way, not too that way, so that the pressure of your turn bounces into your foot, and you feel your foot bouncing. Okay, because if you just turn 1/100 of a millimeter past that, you're going to start feeling pressure inside your knee. And if you feel pressure inside your knee, that's a no-no. First of all, because it can damage your knee, and second of all, if you have that pressure, the energy from your legs can't go into your hands, the energy from your hands can't go back to your legs smoothly. It's blocked. Okay? Now, beyond the fact of let's not destroy our knees, which is probably a good general principle, consider that chi circulates throughout your whole body. If it blocks in one place in your system, it diminishes the entire circulation. Basic principle of Chinese medicine. Qi doesn't move smoothly, you get sick or feel pain. Second principle of Chinese medicine. If the qi moves smoothly and everything, you neither feel sick nor have pain. Chinese term is tong zhi bu tong, tong zhi bu tong. Okay? That's it. I mean, it's really that simple. You go to an acupuncturist not because your qi is flowing, but because it stops somewhere. Can you all follow this? So the big thing is that, so what can you feel? Well, when it gets to the point that you're feeling radical pain, let's just do something here. Come here, Isaac, again, or Jess, somebody, I don't care, anybody, all I want is an arm. Look, at this stage, right, can you all see how if this were done 1,000,000 times, his elbow would start having serious problems? But you see, now if I just ratchet that a little bit more and I do this, can you see how it's getting worse? Hey, how about I take the joint where it's on the verge of snapping and now I start moving it? It's a lot worse. So what that means, hello, since in Hsing I and any martial art, you're not just standing still, you're moving and your waist is turning. You have to find how to turn without pressure, mostly through this area here, goes into your foot without starting to feel like your joints being, and if you feel your joints being, all you know is that you got to futz with it. You got to play with it. Do you understand? There's something you got to do to play with it. And after you play with it, a lot of times, it usually starts getting stronger and better. If you wish to go hunting, the first thing is not to shoot yourself in the foot or in the head. The second thing is to find out how to actually shoot the animal. Okay? I don't say you want to hunt or not. But if you do, I think you can all understand this principle. The first thing is that make sure you're doing the things that will not harm you. Then you can start looking at how you can do the things you want to do. And it's very simple. And if martial arts follow that rule, or any Qigong follows that rule, you will enjoy your practice. But if you get trashed out, odds are at a certain point you won't. It's that simple. And most people don't get their trashing themselves out until they get ouch. And ouch is not that bad. It's snap, crackle, pop, orthopedic surgeon that nobody really likes. That's where it gets dangerous. So first, do things in a way where you minimize any chance of hurting yourself. And then, when you kind of get that together, then you start figuring out how you can do the best you can do with the art that you can. But if you always follow that dictum, it will make you dramatically happier in life than if you just go for the performance. Because people constantly damage themselves going for high performance because they lose all sense of balance and reasonableness. And there's only one thing, your mind can go farther than your body can. There's no two ways about that. If the body could do anything the mind said, then you could take your leg now and make it go like this. But not, there are structural limitations. So let's turn here and let's just get it so you bend your knees a bit. So when you're turning, your weight's going, you feel like you're bouncing on. Your knees don't feel like they get stuck. Okay, good. Now sit down for a second. Now we go for the next thing. Your center of gravity, if you have a human body and you live in a gravitational field, is essentially between your belly button and the middle top of your thigh somewhere. The exact point is where the Chinese talk about the lower Tantien. But if you want to make just a bigger point about it, let's just say from your belly button to, just the beginning of the top of your thighs. Not all the way down, but maybe here. And if you do that, that also, beside the actual physical center of your body, is your lower Tantien. If you cut somebody in half, that's exactly, and you weigh the two sides, you'll probably end up with a similar weight. But when you start talking about when you're moving, it's not just here. It's a little bit higher up to your belly, and it's a little bit high down to your thighs. And there's a very basic reason for that. Your center of gravity is not just affected by where it is. It is very directly tied into your spine. You can cut a body in half in only 2 ways, or 3 ways. The third way doesn't work as far as it goes. I mean, you can cut it this way, like filleting someone with sushi. And that's the place where your left, right, and central channels are, and that's energetic. But physically, you have 2 very clear centers of gravity in your body. The first one is from the crown of your head through the middle of your spine, in other words, right? The vertical, because you got that's two sides. But here where your lower Tantien is, you have as much on top as you have below. Because if you're very long-waisted, this is going to be higher. And if you're very short-waisted, then the fact of the matter is that it's going to be smaller, because your torso is just going to be smaller. That's how it works. So now, if we look at this, what we are concerned with is the fact that this area here, everything from your thighs here all the way up to here, is directly impacting your entire pelvis, which another way, it's another way of looking at your center of gravity. But more than that, it's your lower spine. Now, in America, point of fact, the greatest single time that the greatest single event that all medical time is spent on is lower back problems. Boom. Spine problems. That's it. Everywhere. Same thing in England. The Lancet's done the same research. So now we look at that, and there's another thing. If you want to develop power in your body, I think you can see why you want your whole body weight behind it. Yes or no? So if the middle moves, since you have equal amount on top and the bottom, that's at least going to give you the momentum thing. But if your spine is weak, since your arms have to come out of your spine, for that matter, so does your leg, then if your spine's weak, when you hit something or you defend against something, you don't have strength. Just structurally. I really don't care how strong everything is. If it's held by something that doesn't have a lot of strength, you're going to get a problem. So part of the thing is that now we have to look at this part of the body, and we have to look at the spine, and realize Hsing I's got a way it holds the body to gain maximum effect from the spine, make the spine work very well. This is exceedingly good for helping any kind of back problem you want to think of. But more importantly, this is necessary to connect the energy from the top and the bottom of your body. If this middle region right here is the transfer point between energy moving up and down your body, if it's not stable, the energy does not, chi does not stably move up and down your body. That's it. Okay? So this is how it's done in Hsing I. You have two things. Number one, the standard military thing is like this, right? Stick your butt out, stick your chest out. Well, Hsing I doesn't do that. What it does, because when you're going this way, instead of your weight being forward, where is it? It's backwards. That's like, and that does not allow for smooth movement any way you want to slice it. What you're looking to do is to lightly tuck your pelvis. Not strongly, but lightly. And that involves this. See how my hand's back here? If you take this area where the quads, where your psoas muscle is, you simply tuck it so that your bottom, the bottom of your spine goes down so you can feel your pelvis going right into your feet. If that happens, it'll take the weight of your entire body with it. Okay, so we're coming back again to a similar thing. Where do we talk about? You want to make sure the weight of your body's bouncing into your foot without a problem. Well, this middle area here, where your chi is eventually going to have to drop to, it has to be stable also. So, now there's two ways. There are two parts of this. The first one, as you can see here, my qua, this area, look, you see it lengthening? You see my pelvis dropping, but my body didn't? Just take a look. Look very carefully. You see this area? You see my pelvis just drop? And that will cause the psoas muscle to elongate. Can you see this area here? Watch if I stand this way. Now watch. Look what's happening. You notice it's like it's going down? That means that you're taking this area here, you're taking this area where your qua is, and you're trying to, here, let me make this where it's really easy. Isaac, come here. Yeah, optical illusions. Take your hands and put them right underneath my ribs here so you have a marker in space. Yeah, just put it right in there. Now look where my pelvis is, and now watch my pelvis very clearly. Did you watch it drop? Yes or no? It got longer. That's called it dropped. Can you all see this? This area here stretches. Not compressing your lower vertebrae, but allowing them to simply lengthen. And the main point, and it's a very big point in Hsing I, is that then you're going to feel your energy go through your legs and it's going to drop right to your feet, and that brings us back that you want to have your knees in the right place. If you want that chi to drop through, your knees have to be in the right place. But this is this. So this is one side of it. Second side of it, and this is an energetic thing. Take a spine. You focus first on the butt. You want all this to round, and the butt to round as though the muscles of the rear end are going to go from back here, and you're going to have a sense of all your tissue wrapping right into the front of your pelvis. And this will make your pelvis come in tight, and that tightness of the pelvis, there's no tension involved, it's just that it literally pushes it in. And when that happens, that causes everything inside your pelvis to stabilize your lower spine, your sacrum in particular. I'll tell you what, just for a moment, all of you, now let me make this point about this. I can tell you what it is. I can't say how long it will take anybody to do it. I can tell you how you can do it so you can arrive at that point, but nobody can say what you can do. Let me tell you what some of the problems are going to be. The first one is if you take the lower Tantien, to really do this properly, your psosas muscle in here can't be in spasm. Now this is already very tricky, since anyone who's got a lower back problem has got a psoas in spasm. And lots of people have psoas that are in spasm. That's the big muscle down here that connects your legs to your spine. The second thing is that you have to be able to relax enough so that the muscles right along the bottom of your spine actually can move. And a lot of people are stiff. So it takes time, but anybody can do it, just a matter of how much time. So I'm just telling you what it is you have to do. You're the one who's got to do it. Yeah, in theory, of course. It's theoretical that we all can breathe, but we are breathing, so we hope it's more than that somehow. But it's a very, very tricky business because I want to go back to this point. I want to go back to a different point. A lot of you would think, possibly from what I've shown, that I've been talking about this area here, the psoas, really relaxing and elongating. Like if you relax a muscle, it will elongate. What is it not?
Stretching.
It's not a pelvic thrust. Do you understand? It's not about tucking your butt forward. Okay? It's not about buns of steel. Okay, although you could end up with that, actually. It's quite possible. But the fact is that you're not thrusting your pelvis. You're simply allowing your psoas to drop, and in that, you're letting your psoas wrap. So you want to have the sense that from your back, everything, all these muscles are moving around until they actually do. The issue is that it requires your nerves to release to do this. And that's part of what makes Hsing I very powerful. It develops this really powerful nervous system. Tension is an easy habit to acquire. Letting go of it is more difficult, and the only way you do it is through practice. Unfortunately, the American educational system is terrible in this regard. We teach children how to tense, we don't teach them how to relax. We teach them how to be stressed out adults. We don't teach them how to not be stressed out adults. And given that stress is the major cause of chronic disease, you'd think this is kind of dim. But anyway, what are you going to do? It's moving in that direction. So the trick is that in order to do this, the only way you're going to get it is to let go. So here's an exercise I'm going to have you do with this that may help you at least with the dropping part. If you can't get the drop, you can't get the wrap. Because if you don't get the drop, the nerves in your body clench so hard, it's hard to do the second piece. But here's what I want you to do. You have the person put their hands in your midriff. That's between your ribs and your hip. Just the soft stuff, right? Then what you do is you go like this. And they don't, they keep their hands there. And now what you have to do is that, can you let go of your butt until you start feeling your whole butt and pelvis go down to your feet? Like a sandbag going through your legs.
So I kind of hold you in place and let your pelvis drop.
That's right. I mean, that's what you have to get is the drop. Okay, there's a whole thing in Hsing I, there's a whole thing in Tai Chi, there's a whole thing in Bagua about certain parts of your body raise and certain parts drop. This creates the up and down yin-yang flows in the body. This is a big drop point. Okay? Try it. Give it a go. Have fun. As these alignments, if you haven't done them, start coming into your body's going to get stronger. And I want to get you when you're still in a relatively weakened state. And then tomorrow we'll do the before and after, because what you're going to find out that, for example, if your hand's in front of you and someone wants to push you and you want to resist, don't have these alignments and then have them. And I think then you'll really notice the difference. So here, all we're going to do just for a second is this. Don't worry about what you're doing with your feet yet. Just somehow put one foot in front of the other and have your weight on your back leg. Stick one hand in front of you. Bend your elbow, because that's really better. And have the person push on you and resist them. And don't do any of these alignments I just said. Just literally, just let your body, stick your ass out, mesh your 4 points up, anything you want. And have the person push on you. And then next, just with this, tuck your pelvis open, try and wrap it. Keep your 4 points together. And just see how much more strength you have in your hand. Just do a before and after test. Okay? And we'll do this a number of times during the weekend just so you see. And as we add more and more alignments, let's put it this way, anybody could be the unusual 1 in a million, but most people will find they're going to get stronger.